All right. Welcome to the show today. We're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive on Urim and Thummim. What are these objects? We're going to be talking about this in the Bible, and we're going to try and unravel this mystery once and for all. We're going to try and take care of it because, again, it's very difficult to find this stuff online. It's very difficult. You run across the same thing over and over and over again. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what we know, and then I'm going to share with you some of my insights, some of my thoughts when it comes to Urim and Thummim. All right, so let's just get going here. How's everyone doing today? Let's go into, we're going to do a little bit of a dive into Exodus chapter 28. So if you have your Bibles handy, this would be a good time to bring them out. So let's go to Exodus 28. And let me just make sure you guys can see this all right. There we go. Good to see you, Rootsy. Great name. All right, so let's go into Exodus chapter 28. I'm going to try and read this from the TV screen because I have my TV on as well. It just shows up a little bit better. All right, so roost, like rooster. Okay, got it. And so Exodus 28, and take thou unto Aaron thy brother and his sons with him, and from the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. Thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to skip ahead a little bit. But I think it's important just to understand that God is creating garments for Aaron and his sons because they represent the priesthood of Israel. And if you don't know who Israel is the descendants of Jacob, 12 tribes. All right, let's continue. Let's skip down a little bit here. I'll read just a little bit more. Just a little more. Thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, smart guys, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom. And don't forget, there are a lot of smart ladies as well. A lot of smart ladies and gentlemen. That they make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, an embroidered coat, a mitre. Maybe I'll do a video later on mitre. Basically, it's kind of interesting because it's almost like a crown of thorns for healing. Now, if you go to watch images of how the priests are dressed, you'll see it. You'll see them with hats and all kinds of stuff. But the mitre, it's actually a crown, and this mitre is actually a plant type substance that's for healing, which is kind of interesting. That Christ is our healer on our crown, in our head. I'll do a deep dive on mitre down the road, but just so you know, it kind of represents a crown. And if you think about the Romans putting a crown on Jesus' head, a crown of thorns, it's kind of interesting because this goes all the way back here. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron, thy brother, his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. They shall take gold, blue, and purple and scarlet and fine linen. Fine linen. And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, and of purple, of scarlet, and fine twined linen with cunning work. Cunning work means very detailed, very professional. Like whoever is going to do this is going to be at the top of their game. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces thereof joined at the 2 edges thereof, and so shall be joined together. And the curious girdle. I was curious about that. Curious girdle, which is of the ephod, which is upon it. It shall be of the same, according to the work thereof, even of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones. Now we're getting to the meat. Onyx stones. And grave on them the names of the children of Israel. Oh, this is interesting. 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names on the rest of the other stone, according to their birth order, with the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet. Thou shalt engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches, owie of gold. Ouches. It's just basically almost like when you give a wedding ring or an engagement ring to your spouse or significant other, there are basically, depending how nice the ring is, there's usually gold brackets, if you will, that actually holds your diamond if you have diamonds in the ring, and that basically represents ouches. So ouches, the gold, basically the stones are going to get set in the ouches. Could be ouches. You say tomato, I say tomato. Thou shalt put in 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod, stones of memorial unto the children of Israel. So basically 1 on each shoulder. Like when we're talking 2 stones, we're starting to get into the nitty gritty of there's representation of these stones as well on the shoulders. And we're going to get to, let's just actually go down, because this is basically the design of the breastplate that Aaron and his sons are to wear. But I want to go down to the breastplate. Verse 22, and thou shalt make up the breastplate, chains at the end of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put 2 rings on 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains shalt thou fasten in 2 ouches, and put them into the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them on 2 ends of the breastplate of the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward, and 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make. And thou shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, and toward the forepart thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, and it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod. The breastplate may not be loosed from the ephod. This is secure. And Aaron shall bear the name of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart. So this will be therefore from this moment forward called the breastplate of judgment, which will be placed over his heart. And he goeth in unto the holy place for memorial before the Lord continually. And thou, this is where we get the interesting part, thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment, the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. And then it goes on and on about holes and putting pomegranates of blue, purple, all kinds of stuff, right? Lots of stuff going on here. All right. So what have we learned so far? Lots of detail, right? Lots of detail. So most people, and I would put myself in that category, as most people, would normally look at this and just go, this is kind of boring. It's kind of boring. Got lots of ouches. You got lots of gold, lots of purple, lots of blues going on. So what's the significance of this whole video being about Urim and Thummim? Well, we're getting to that. We're getting to it. So let's jump into a little bit of history as to what people believe the Urim and Thummim is, and then we're going to build a little bit of a foundation as to what people think these are, just because there's not a lot of detail. That was it. What you read there, that was the detail. And the only other detail we get is to actually how they are used. I'll talk about that. All right, so let's go into the traditions and theories about the Urim and Thummim. So the Urim and Thummim are ignitant objects described in the Bible. So they're very opaque, leaving room for interpretation about their nature and function. And here are the main theories. 2 distinct stones. This always comes up. You watch just about every YouTube channel. Anytime they talk about Urim and Thummim, they're going to come up with this. Possibly black and white. Binary decision making. Many believe the Urim and Thummim were 2 distinct stones used to provide yes or no answers. Maybe I'll put this up so you guys can read this as well. And then we can have that way. I always like it when I can read along. So let me put this up here for you to read along with me. So binary decision making. Many believe the Urim and Thummim were 2 distinct stones used to provide yes/no answers or simple binary guidance. Black and white stones drawing on cultural practices such as ancient lots. Some suggest one stone might signify yes, Urim, or the other no, Thummim. Others have said that this is illuminating stones. Urim as lights. The name Urim is Hebrew for lights. Suggests that they may have emitted light as part of their function. Ooh, that's interesting. Thummim as perfections. The Thummim could ensure that the response was complete and error-free. Integrated with the high priest's breastplate, some traditions suggest the Urim and Thummim were part of the breastplate of judgment. Urim as the stones themselves. The 12 stones of the breastplate might collectively represent Urim. And this is my thought. This is actually my idea. That if you have the 12 stones together as a unit, that represents the Urim. So 12 stones together. If you miss one stone, it's not a Urim anymore. Urim as the stones themselves. The 12 stones of the breastplate might collectively represent the Urim, symbolizing light and revelation. Thummim as the holder of the source, or the source. So the Thummim could be a backing or framework holding the stones in alignment, and enabling their function. Again, this is my idea. I haven't found this anywhere else, so this is what I believe to be most plausible. The idea that you have the Urim as 12 stones, and then you have the Thummim, which is basically the backplate of the Urim. So the biblical description, let's just go into this a little bit. The Urim and Thummim are first mentioned in Exodus 28 during the instruction for the high priest's garments, the breastplate of judgment. Central to the high priest role was described in Exodus 28:15-30. 12 stones arranged in rows of 3, 4 rows of 3. Each stone represented one of the 12 tribes of Israel. The stones were engraved with the tribal names in gold filigree. That's an interesting way to say it. Placement on the high priest's chest, the breastplate was attached to the ephod and worn over the high priest's heart, symbolizing his ancestry role before God. Only the priests were to be able to wear the breastplate. Integration of the Urim and Thummim, and thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and Thummim. So you're to put this inside the breastplate. That's interesting. And they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord. The Urim and Thummim were likely stored in a pocket or pouch within the breastplate, used for seeking God's guidance. In biblical usage, this is how they were used. So Moses establishing the system, and he put the breastplate upon him. Also, he put in the breastplate the Urim and Thummim. So he put these inside the breastplate. Moses consecrated Aaron as a high priest and ensured the Urim and Thummim were included in his sacred garments. Under Joshua's leadership in Numbers 27-21, and he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before the Lord. So now we're getting into the purpose and the use of the Urim and Thummim. Joshua was instructed to consult Eleazar, the high priest, for divine guidance in military leadership matters. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Judges and early Israel. War guidance. Judges 20:27-28. And the children of Israel inquired of the Lord, shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? So this is in Judges. And the Lord said, go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them unto thine hand. It's interesting that they had to inquire of the Lord and hold on to that thought. And the Lord said, go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into thine hand. So this gets rid of that theory of a black rock, white rock, tossing them to the ground, all this stuff, because here we see God is actually responding to the children of Israel because they're inquiring, what do we do next? What do we do about the Benjamites that have gone crazy, gone rogue? David does the same thing. He was seeking God's will. 1 Samuel 37:8. And David inquired of the Lord, at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered, pursue. Thou shalt surely overtake them, without fail, recover all. Again, this is a sentence. This is not just a couple of rocks being tossed onto the ground. David used the ephod containing the Urim and Thummim to seek guidance for military action. Saul's silence from God. So in 1 Samuel 28:6, Saul is in the bad books. This is probably where we get the book of life from, the idea that people can be in the bad books. Because remember, in the Great White Throne Judgment, there were books that were open, books that lead unto death, and books that lead unto life. If your name was written in the Lamb's Book of Life, then you you're around for eternity. You don't have to participate in the second death. But if you're not in that book, you're in the book of death, basically meaning lake of fire. Black Swan thoughts. So could the Urim and Thummim illuminate Hebrew letters? What if the Urim and Thummim weren't just binary tools, but a complex system for receiving instructions from God? Question mark. The 12 stones as letters. The 12 stones on the breastplate engraved with the names of the tribes could also correspond to Hebrew letters or initials. This arrangement would allow for more than just yes-no answers. It could convey entire words or phrases. So if you have divine illumination in moments of inquiry, God might have caused the specific stones to light up, spelling out Hebrew words to reveal his will. For example, the stones could light up to spell go or do not go, providing precise guidance for Israelites. So this goes beyond yes or no. That's too easy. The theory explains how the Urim and Thummim can offer complex guidance such as appointing leaders, determining battle strategies, providing detailed moral instruction or legal instructions. The theological and symbolic significance, Urim lights suggest illumination, fitting the idea of glowing stones. Thummim, perfections, ensures clarity and accuracy. I have to read that accurately, that word, accuracy in the revealed message. Conclusion, a unified system of divine guidance. The Urim and Thummim, integrated with the breastplate of judgment, were tools for direct communication with God. Whether they work through casting lots, illumination, or spelling out letters, they symbolize God's active presence and guidance for his people. Isn't that interesting? Interesting, right? What I also found out in the Sanhedrin, I think it's like 93A or B, that's what the Jews believed a long time ago, that these stones would light up in a particular order in order to instruct Israel in the manner that they are to do something, in the manner that they are to perform. So imagine having a breastplate on here that represents all 12 tribes in birth order. And when the priest would inquire, what do we do? Do we go and attack? Do we stay? What do we do? They all light up in sequence so that somebody looking at that would understand, oh, this is what we are supposed to do. It's just a theory. It's just a theory. Look at this. See this? This is kind of interesting. This is, I don't know if you can see this. This is a little lantern that I have. Right? Little lantern. It's got little lights inside it. But look what's inside here. Look at this. You open it up. Look at this thing. You have a little battery pack in here. Uh-oh. My wife's not going to be happy about that. So I just messed it up. Let me just squish this back in here like this, just like nothing happened. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. All right. Listen, look at this. Look what I have here. This is kind of interesting as well. I say everything is interesting, but to me it is. Look at this here. I have this little sign here. It's called On Air. A friend gave it to me. I have a little plug. Just plug this into the little USB here. Boom. And then you just go over here. Look at that. Lights up like a Christmas tree. Eh? Kind of nice. So when we're talking about lights with stones and stuff, this is what we're talking about. The idea of lighting up stones in a particular order. Oops. Don't spill your coffee. In a particular order so that you can understand what's going on. So let's just see, for example, I should drink my coffee here. All right. Let's have a look here. Look at this. Look what I drew. Actually, I think I can just show this to you. Let me see if I have this here. This is something interesting that I came up with. I haven't seen anybody else come up with this. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find. Oh, I know where it is. Right here. All right, look at this. Check this out. See if you can see this, all right? So what you see here is what I did is I actually took the 12 stones and I decided to write out all the letters. Can I zoom in on this? No. Oh, yeah. Huh. That's kind of cool. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Well, slow down, cowboy. So what I did is I took the letters of the Hebrew alphabet and I injected them into the stones. So if you were to have, I don't know if I can move this. I don't think so. Oh yeah, there we go. So if you see in the top right, it says Aleph. You see that there? Let me see if I could zoom in. No. All right, that's okay. That's okay. Oh yeah. Here we go. So, whoa. This is crazy. Hopefully you get the idea of what's going on here. So basically I codified the 12 stones so that if you were to light these stones up in a particular order, you can get the letters out of the 12 stones. So Dalet, if you it is basically binary. So basically you take the 12 stones, and if you look at Dalet, you see the top three are lit up, and then the bottom, basically all the circles on the right are lit up. That represents Dalet. If you go to Hay, you can see that the way that is, the three top circles are highlighted, and then on the right, and then on the left is the two little circles, and that represents Hay. And then you can see Valve to the left. And if you were to do that with all the letters, it's actually quite fascinating that you could basically do that in any sequence. You can actually use these letters to spell words out, like go, stay, King David, Saul, whatever you want. You can spell out words, sentences, whatever, just by lighting up these stones. And the interesting thing about Hebrew is it's actually all in block letters, which I find fascinating. It's all in block letters. Was it always in block letters? No, it was very much, what do they call it? Basically symbols. Like if you go through the Hebrew alphabet, I kind of wish Derek was here. He could explain this a little bit better than myself. But the idea is each letter of the Hebrew alphabet represents something, an object, a nail, an ox, all this kind of stuff. So if you put this in here into the priest's breastplate and you light this up, well, there's a good chance you're going to understand what's going on, because remember, there's no vowels in Hebrew. So somebody that is fluent in Hebrew would see these light up like a Christmas tree, and they would know, oh, okay, I guess we're to march. Time's up. Let's go. Let's march. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It actually matches up quite nicely with the 12 stones. And then also, if you think about the idea that each tribe was written, so you have Judah, Simeon, Issachar, Asher, Reuben, all these tribes, all 12 tribes, you have them representing these stones. And if you light those things up, you can also represent certain letters as well. So you can just, like, Judah is to go first, Simeon is to go first, whatever. It's almost like a little Almost feels like it's a little computer program in some ways, because all you would need to do is you have the stones placed in little ouches, and then you have the Urim where the stones are actually they're placed on the breastplate, and then you put the Urim behind the stones, and then behind that you put another plate, which is the Thummim. All of a sudden you got something that's almost like some kind of a conductor or something, like a semiconductor, that you can actually generate um, enough of an autonomous source that it could light up. And if you're talking about mediation from heaven, from angels, they could basically work this program no problem, letting people know what's going on. Because remember, the commandments were mediated by angels from heaven. So you don't want to mess around with that kind of stuff when angels are giving you instructions from God. You don't mess around with that stuff because you take it serious. But now we have someone that is greater than angels. He's created a little lower, meaning he could die on the cross. But when he died and rose again on the third day, is actually more. He has a name that is above every name, not only in this world, but the world to come, which is quite fascinating to me. So that's all I want to talk about today. Is just that, just to share my thoughts on that. I think it makes sense if you were to look at some of the various scriptures. Let me just see if I can dive into one actually. Maybe this will make more sense. Let's see here. Do I have it? Actually, let me just see if I have a couple of verses here. Yeah, so 1 Samuel 23, 9-12. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him, and he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring here the ephod." Then David said, "O Lord, God of Israel, thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up to his hand? Will Saul come down as thy servant hath heard?" And the Lord said, "He will come down." So you could actually spell these words out on these stones. If you were to lay them all out and light them up, you can actually spell it out. It's almost like it's very similar to like Morse code, all that kind of stuff. It's to me, this is quite fascinating because God is actually speaking in sentences. It's not just a simple taking stones and then just throwing down black and white, a black stone and a white stone. If they both come up white, then go. If they don't, stay. The Lord says, "Pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all." So if you use the Urim and Thummim as part of this process, they may have operated in a way that allowed more detail to messages than the simple yes, no questions. So again, if you go into, where is it exactly? Seeing if I have this, the Sahedrin. See, I always like to form my theory, and then I like to go digging and see if anyone else thinks the same way, or is it totally crazy? Let me see if I can find the source here. I believe it was in the Sahedrin. Can't find it. But it's interesting, again, if I go into the Hebrew letters on the stones theory, so collectively all the engravings of the stones would likely cover most, if not all, of the Hebrew alphabet. This would make it possible to spell many Hebrew words or phrases if God illuminated the letters. So how could this work? How could this light up? So, for example, the stones could spell go if seeking guidance on a journey. The high priest would need to interpret the illuminated letters and arrange them into coherent messages, much like interpreting prophetic messages. Oh, here it is. In the Talmudic traditions, the Sanhedrin 93b rabbinic writings describe the high priest interpreting lit up letters on the stones of the breastplate during live consultations. It's funny, I came up with this first. I wrote this all out, and then I started doing a little bit of due diligence, and I noticed that there was an article about that. But on YouTube, I haven't seen this anywhere. Nowhere on YouTube are people saying that the Urim and Thummim are lit up like a Christmas tree on the breastplate of the priest. Usually they'll go to the idea that we're confused, we don't know what's going on, it just looks like rocks, black and white rocks. And I'm like, nowhere in the scripture does it say black and white rocks being used. That's a stretch. You start going down the idea of legend. And I try to stay from legend. I don't mind introducing ideas that, hey, maybe this person thought that or that person thought that. That's fine. But to just look at the scripture and look at it and go, oh yeah, that's black and white stone, when it's not saying black and white stone. It's talking about 12 stones being placed in ouches that are made of gold. It's almost like some kind of a conductor as well. I wish I knew more about that. So some history on what other people thought. Let's see here. I have, where is it? I had some traditions of what other people from other cultures might think that was. I don't know where it is. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video today. Thought I'd share that. Hopefully you got something out of it. If there's anything else regards that, you can throw up some questions. I think it kind of makes sense to me. I don't mind that use, because I think when people approach the Bible, they go, well, these guys are like back to the Stone Ages. And I've tossed out the idea that there could be the possibility that the ark was almost potentially nuclear, because this thing, like when you think about it, the priests are basically putting on hazmat suits every time they go into the tabernacle and go into the Holy of Holies. Like once a year, the priest, the main priest, would go into the Holy of Holies, standing there. And tradition has that they would have a rope around him in case he died. Like once you went in, you weren't allowed. I'm talking just outside the Holy of Holies. Once you went in and you're conducting your work inside the tabernacle, you're not allowed to leave for a week. You have to stay, because it almost looks like you can get electrocuted or fried or whatever if you leave, because they had to take off their, I'll call them robes, but they're basically like hazmat suits in order to worship before the Lord, in order to conduct their services before the Lord. And they would have to wash themselves, clean themselves, and then put on these suits and then go in. It was a process. They had the red heifers. They would use the ash to wash themselves, almost like a new type of detergent for them. Gets out all those stains. I can just see like a commercial in neon back in those days. You know what? Use red heifer. Red heifer takes out most stains, takes out everything. Almost like testimonials from people in the desert for 40 years out in the wilderness saying, yeah, you know what? I use red heifer every day with all my clothes, and they stay so white. It's crazy. Like I never get dirty. It's amazing. something like that. Maybe there wasn't a promotion, but it's kind of interesting that there was a process in order to minister inside the tabernacle. And there's all kinds of rules and regulations that we kind of skip over, because as soon as you start seeing ouches and chains and double hooks and prongs and all kinds of stuff, we kind of look around and then we skip past this stuff and try and get to the action. But there's a reason for all this stuff. One of them is just so that people can actually draw near to God and not get killed, because it's almost like God was highly, what do you call it? Radioactive. So funny. And so it's almost like that, because like when you think about the ark, whenever it got captured, where was it? I think it was Ashdod, one of those areas in Gaza. As soon as the ark was captured from Israel and taken to Gaza, they broke out into tumors, cancerous tumors, hemorrhoids, all kinds of crazy stuff was happening to their body. I think they were getting some form of radiation poison because the ark was near them. And a lot of them died, so much that they're like, we got to build these, we got to basically take some oxen, we got to send them back to Israel. Otherwise, we're all dead, all of us. It's almost like radioactivity spreading throughout all of Gaza. So they had to send the ark back. And later we know that one of David's men, when the ark was on a cart, that one of the oxen tripped, and the guy went to put his hand on the ark, fried like bacon. Fried like bacon. That's probably where that term came from. One of David's men looked at the guy and came over to David and said, hey, guess what happened to this guy? He fried like bacon. Just spitballing here. Lots of origin sayings coming out of the Bible. Lots of them. You missed the boat. That probably was on the ark. Looks like those people missed the boat. It's kind of a dry joke. Probably came from there as well. They were dry. Anyways, that's it for today's video. If you got something out of this, let me know in the comments. If you like this type of thing, let me know that as well. And I'll see you guys in another video. Have a great day. Ciao.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.